This is Alarm Will, our series in which we try to get to know a composer on our terms. I'm Gavin, I'm the manager of Alarm Will Sound, and I'm here with composer Oscar Bettison and our very own cellist and sports fan, Stefan Freund. In this episode, which we're calling Alarm Will Monday Night Football, Oscar, you get to learn about how to watch American football, and I get to learn about you and your music, and you get to do both at the same time.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So, Stefan, we know, as I kind of gave it away, I call it American football. Oscar, you and I didn't grow up with, we know what real football is. So what is it that people who grew up with real football need to know about not real football?
It's different than we have set play, so there's stoppage between each play that happens, whereas in soccer you have continuous play. We have a lot of substitutions that happen as well. It's very rare that you have substitutions. In soccer you have 2 or 3 a game. You might have 2 or 3 per play in football. So those are a couple of the differences that we'll be talking about today.
Oh, okay. That is so fascinating. I am gripped. So what I really want to know, so Oscar, you've written us a piece that we're premiering, a new violin concerto.
That's right, yeah.
We've also played Livre de Sauvage.
That's right.
We played that a couple years ago on the Mizzou International Composers Festival, which is your baby, Stefan's.
That's correct.
And both those pieces there's some similarities about them, and it's almost like actually since we're watching team sport, it's like you treat the orchestra like it's a team. They're like locked into rhythms. And tell us a little bit about that, about like the team aspect or the way you think about an orchestra as a team.
I just really like a really tight ensemble, you know, and everybody's sort of playing together, but playing things that are really rhythmically, hard. I mean, they're hard to play, they're complex. But they're playing it together, and it sounds, when it's on, it sounds great. I mean, I think it just makes, I think it makes the ensemble, like, if you're aware of how, you sort of get an idea, even if you don't know that, if you're not a musical expert, you sort of get an idea as to how hard it is, because it's just super tight, and I just love that idea of something being just a really tight ensemble that does these things.
So do you write mostly for large ensemble, or do you write also, have you ever written a solo violin piece?
I have some solo things, but I kind of I think I feel more at home in sort of a ensemble or a large ensemble kind of setting. I think that's more my kind of thing.
Yeah,
Clearly
so
there's
the Titans
nothing
are moving down the field here. We just had a big 20-30 yard pass by the Titans. So they've got the ball at midfield. So they've gotten about halfway to where you need to get for a touchdown, as you know. So second down is coming up. First down they just threw away. So we'll keep an eye on this. Here's second down right here. So as we were talking about earlier, you can see the tight end over here, wide receiver. This is a pretty heavy package, so they're running, and they got 1 yard.
I know.
So that's what you get with a heavy package. You get guaranteed short yardage, basically. It's not as much as a risk as where you have a lighter package. You're going for a big play, most likely, down the field.
Yeah, I understood the words in those sentences.
And you were talking about this idea of bringing players together to create this tightness. One of the things you do in Pale Icons of Night is create these hyper instruments, combinations of music. Right. And we have similar things that happen here in football, because you'll see right here this group of wide receivers are going to go out together and work in tandem together to try to get open. Obviously it didn't work though. So music is hopefully a little more predictable than football.
What I want to say about the detuned stuff is that, to me, actually what I hear is it's more. It almost turns into a texture.
Yeah, sure.
It's like it's not pitch anymore. When people are playing these like weirdly tuned, kind of off kilter things, it somehow flips a switch in my mind, and it's like it's the orchestra almost sounds like a bell, or it sounds like a piece of metal. It's in your music, the thing that really catches my ear is this, you said this kind of hyper instrument, the orchestra as an instrument, rather than, here are these discrete instruments playing these discrete pitches. It's like this just sound.
And they blend together so well. And I think that...
I think for me, I've always been interested in like sound and like. So the harmony in a piece is, I think really harmonically. Like I that's my sort of basis of my thinking. But it's sort of more like fundamental than just like this chord to this chord. It's like making like a kind of meta harmony, which is basically the sound of a piece, you know.
So the timbre along.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a harmony is kind of timbre.
Martin Padding once said, "Oscar, you have great technique. Tell us what happened next."
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he said, "You have great technique," and I don't mean that as a compliment. Which is, it was really interesting because, obviously I'm from the UK, and a lot of the emphasis in thinking about composition in the UK, at least when I was a student, I don't know if it's the same now, there was so much about technique, but very, very little about aesthetics and about, the stuff that isn't technique. I mean, actually, maybe all of this actually, in the end, it is technique, but that's a separate discussion. But when I went to Holland, everything was different because technique is something that could kind of stop you from just doing whatever you want to do. Technique is something that sort of maybe can hinder you from just like going for it, And it was really useful for me to have that different way of thinking where it was like, he said to me, why don't you write the piece, don't write the piece that you know you can write the piece that you don't know how to write. I think that's still one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given, and that's something that I say to my students, especially my older students, push it, don't be safe, don't do the thing that you know how to do, but try and just go for it. Like, what would happen if you were very uncomfortable? Rather than writing the safety, being in the safety zone. I thought you were going to do a segue there.
Oh, we've had
one thing.
I gave you that.
That was a great setup.
It's this whole thing of like people saying that about finding your own voice, and you've got to find your own voice. I think a lot of it is you just got to keep on writing music, and you just do it enough, and you just keep on doing it, and then one day somebody goes, "Wow, you have a really distinctive voice." And you go, "Really?" I mean, it's just what you end up with,
How's that for a segue? You use a lot of percussion.
I thought, actually, I kind of dialed it back a bit on this piece.
You did?
I did. I was...
I remember the chromatic en-bloc and what that was going to cost.
Yeah, Livre de Sauvage has got one of the biggest percussion setups. I mean, it actually is originally written for a single player. It was a co-commission, one of the groups that was commissioning it, I knew the player very well, so I sort of wrote it for him, and so I knew that he could cover all this stuff, and it was sort of I wanted to write a piece that would keep him busy.
No, but big gongs take up space and they're heavy, and that's
so beautiful.
And you get a lot of mileage out because you use different beaters.
Yeah.
Different techniques. Sometimes they're muted. Sometimes they're short sounds.
And I've got
the
the piano prepared as well, so that saved on some of the rental costs because they sound like gongs.
That's
so I was really thinking about you, Gavin, when I was.
Thank you very much. What's the first piece you wrote, or the earliest piece you wrote that you thought, this doesn't suck?
Actually, I have a good answer for that, but it's a big caveat, which is that I wrote a piece when I was about 16, which I still think is a good piece now. But then I wrote like loads of terrible pieces for a long time after that. And I think some of that is to do with sort of beginning to know what you can do. And sometimes you can kind of luck out on things, but actually when you have to produce more and more pieces, it then gets quite hard. I think there were, for me, at least my relationship to my music is there are some pieces, there's the very sporadically pieces that, I think, oh, that's not bad, that's not bad, that's not bad. But then there's loads of pieces that I really dislike in between those pieces. And then I think gradually, as I've got older, those things have fallen by the wayside. And I think there's more pieces that I feel are representative, and there are things that, I'm not embarrassed to have played or whatever. But I think for me, it's like beginning to sort of know what I'm doing and kind of feel like they're me and they're representative. It takes a long time. So there's not the first piece that I don't know. The first piece that sounds like me, I'm not sure, but definitely it's a weird thing. I don't think there was. I actually don't know if I would have carried on writing music if I didn't have a couple of pieces right at the beginning that I thought were quite good.
What is something you heard in another person's music? I have to steal that.
Oh, now you know one of my secrets.
Oh, so you do it all the time.
Everybody does.
Oh.
Everybody does.
So you did it.
I don't think there's any composer that hasn't heard a piece and just been like, I wish I wrote that. I mean, every composer has that, right? I mean,
well, I'm hearing that in your piece now. The prepared piano thing is fantastic, and this is what I want to encourage my students to do: is you have a percussion instrument, really explore it, see all the things that you can do with it.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And that's
right,
what you,
right.
Or the piano. Look at all the things you do with the piano. It's really fantastic to explore all of the different.
First and 10.
All of the different things. It's not a first down, but
that's true. I mean, that is one thing about the composers and when you hear a piece and like you just. I mean, no one. I don't think there's anyone who writes music that doesn't have that thing sometimes with a piece where you're just like, that's just the most amazing thing ever, or just that or piece of music that you can say changed your life.
Well, as usual, I did not learn anything about American football tonight. Stefan, that's your live slot.
One day I hope you'll come over to us.
Well, I learned something about American football, so.
Well, we definitely learned a lot about Oscar Bettison, composer. Thank you so much for being here with us on Alarm Will Monday Night Football.
Thanks.